Preseason is over. It comes to a close with a 4-1 Canucks win over the Edmonton Oilers. Let's break it down on Rink Wide Vancouver. Vancouver studios, Jeff Patterson, joined once again by Irfan Ghaffar. Irf, we made it to the finish line. Preseason is, as you would say, over, absolutely.
O-V-A-H.
And it comes to a close with a 4-1 win by the Canucks over a good Edmonton Oilers lineup at the very least. All the big guns were in that Oilers lineup. Obviously, it's preseason, so nothing close to the stakes that were there when these teams last met in Vancouver on May the 20th, Game 7 of that second-round playoff series. That was then. This is now. But there were some standout performances for the Vancouver Canucks, and we are here on Rink Wide, as we will be all season long, to break it down for you, go over each and every game with a fine-tooth comb and lots to get to. Rink Wide Vancouver brought to you in part by Greta Bar YVR, and hockey season is now right around the corner. But before it gets going, lots going on at Greta. You can watch baseball playoffs, football, both sides of the border, there's soccer going on, and once the hockey season gets going, I suppose it has now with the games overseas. Greta's a great spot for all games, home and away. We're going to be there with Canucks Army viewing parties throughout the season. I hear there's talk perhaps of a live Rink Wide at some point through the hockey season. More details on that coming up. Minutes from the arena. Come by before or after the game or any event. You can check out the great street food. And of course, so all the arcade games they've got in there as well. Weekly drink specials. Greta Bar, the place to be. 50 West Cordova. Greta Bar. Let the games begin. Let the preseason end. It did. The Canucks go 3-2-1, so they end up winning more than they lose. And this one tonight, really the Arshdeep Bains story. There are other performers, and we'll get to those. We'll have our features, the 3 stars, and we'll get to the stat that stands out, some other things as we go here. But this was last chance for guys to step up and put their best foot forward. And Arshdeep Bains made that latest round of cuts midweek and got this opportunity tonight. And boy, did he make the most of it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think he's been pretty good this preseason, Jeff, as a whole. You know, there hasn't been times where you looked at him and said he's looked out of place or things, haven't gone so well for him. I mean, let's not forget that he started this training camp process in the Canucks rookie camp in Penticton, the prospects camp. So he had to go through all that, not only training all summer and get ready for it, and then obviously, make his way into main camp, earn a spot and earn a shot, and he's clearly done that. And his play tonight against the Edmonton Oilers was that. It was very good. I thought he was good on the puck. I thought he made good plays, heads up plays when he needed to. We talked so much about him and Atu Ratu kind of being the two guys that are battling for that final roster spot. Well, Arshdeep Bains might kind of have the slight edge here a little bit on that, and obviously scoring on that power play goal as well. And he gets to walk off with Murph. So he had a pretty good night in his final preseason game.
Well, we want your feedback throughout the season. So let's start it out here in the preseason as well. And already Harinder with the thumbs up on Facebook for Arshdeep Bains. And I would imagine the coaching staff and management probably giving thumbs up as well. Hit us up on our social channels. You can join the conversation as well on our YouTube live feed. We want to hear from you, and certainly we'll try to incorporate your feedback as we work our way through the show and throughout the season. The final numbers for Arshdeep Bains on the night: a goal and an assist, 12 minutes and 17 seconds. Very much a fourth-line role at even strength, but getting some second power play unit time as well. And for the second straight game, scored on the power play the other night in Edmonton. Nice feed from Kiefer Sherwood here. It was some nice puck movement.
Yeah.
It was funny because the first unit didn't do a lot with the power play. And I think, first night for JT Miller, just the second game for Quinn Hughes, first chance to see that first unit with Jake DeBrusk, and we wanted to see what it was going to look like. There were a few moments where they zipped it around, but really didn't do an awful lot. But the second unit made the most of its opportunity, worked the puck, kept it in the zone, won a couple of puck battles, and eventually early in the second period, it was Hoglander, nice little tip pass, Danton Heinen, and slides it across, and Arshdeep Bains makes no mistake, so scores his second of the preseason, both against the Oilers. Again, not so much how you start the preseason or young stars, it's how you finish, and Arshdeep scores in back-to-back games. So, leaving a mark on the game and on the score sheet, but really, if you go back to the mid-stage of the first period, it's Bains and it's Nils Amon. It's the Canucks' fourth line out against Connor McDavid, and I'm kind of covering my eyes as I'm at the rink watching, and what happens? Arshdeep Bains hustles after a puck, feeds it back to Quinn Hughes, and we spend every summer wondering what the captain's got up his sleeve, what's he been working on. He put a little muscle on with that slap shot. I mean, he beat Stuart Skinner cleanly with the ripper from the left point.
Yeah, not just reading books all summer, Quinn Hughes. He absolutely hammered that one in
your
the
slap shot, maybe.
Well, there you go. I mean, he doesn't need hockey for dummies, I'll tell you that. He hasn't reigning Norris Trophy winner there. But look, I think what you see is what you get from Quinn Hughes. Like you mentioned, what tricks does he have up his sleeve? And if he has that booming slap shot for the point, that's not only Philip Roenick that has one now. That's another massive weapon, not only for your power play, but also just at 5-on-5 play. That's just adds another, weapon to their arsenal that they already have of what Quinn Hughes can do. He did it all tonight. He scores the goal. He makes a lot of plays as he goes down the boards again, like he usually does, where forwards and the opposition defense, they don't know what to do. And then at some point, you think that one of the Canuck players is still going to go to the front of the net, and they've got to be learning that and got to be going through stuff like that. But yeah, I thought Quinn was good. He's going to be good. I think that's the thing that we know about Quinn Hughes. Preseason for me is always those guys that, we didn't really see too much of last season. Maybe not so much the bubble guys like Carson Soucy. I wanted to see a little bit of him in the preseason, right? I missed so much time last year. How is he going to come out, get ready in a full summer, being ready for training camp? And then the new guys, right? Danton Heinen, Jake DeBrusk obviously scoring a couple of times in the preseason as well. That's for me, those are the guys that I was looking at, because what you're going to get out of the core guys here. Brock Besser ringing a couple shots off the post. That's great to see the Brock shots there. So we know that. But definitely for me, Jeff, it was a new guys that I wanted to look at. And just taking a look at our YouTube chat right now, I mean, there's a lot of people, saying a lot of really good stuff about this game, mostly looking good. Sprong has confidence. Quinn is on his game. Seelov's dialed in. Bain's looking he could stick on the fourth line at least. That's from Matt Blom. But a lot of other people in there as well. Just raving about the Vancouver Canucks in their final preseason game.
Dan Carlo, all the way from the Philippines, says, boys, I'm watching, cheering on the Vancouver Canucks. And hey, we appreciate the feedback. And again, Rink Wide Worldwide will check in a little bit later on, but let us know wherever you're catching Rink Wide around this planet. We want to know, because we're going to track it as we go all season long. We haven't touched on Artur Silov's. He's going to factor in the 3 stars a little bit later on, but certainly he looked ready for prime time. And, he got 3 starts in the preseason. The first game against Seattle wasn't all that busy. The Kraken did a terrific lineup, but he gave up 1 goal that night in a tight game. Gave up 1, but he didn't give up any more than that. The Canucks ultimately win 3-1. Here, again, this is an Oilers lineup that had not just McDavid and Draisaitl, but the Nuges in action. Yeah. Victor Arvidsson, Jeff Skinner, a couple of their shiny new toys, although neither one of those guys is new to the National Hockey League, but new to the Edmonton Oilers. Evan Bouchard, and we know what he can do from the point, and ultimately he was the only Oiler that beat Artur Silovs in this hockey game, but Artie was on it. Terrific save off Zach Hyman at 1-0 in the first period when McDavid, behind the back pass and the little tic-tac-toe. Hyman's going to score that goal a lot throughout the season, but Shilov was able to slide across, got the right pad down. There were other saves in the second period. I noted long shot from Ty Emberson from the point, and Victor Arvidsson swooped in, got the rebound, and Shilov's again flashing out the quick left pad there. And then even in the third period, off Arvidsson from the side, sharp angle, but he had to get across and travel some distance. So Artur Shilov's, it's going to be his net on opening night. Beyond that, I think it is going to be a bit of a battle. I don't know if it's going to be win and you're in kind of thing, but I do think that they're going to platoon for the first 10 to 15 games at least. So Shilovs knows he's got some competition, but I think based on the preseason and what he did for the Canucks in the playoffs, he's earned the opening night start on Wednesday at the very least. And if he's in there against the Flames on Wednesday, what a way to go into the regular season, because Artie, he looked good in the hockey game.
Well, and I think one of the biggest things, the knock on Artie, was his ability not to be able to track long-range pucks. And he was good against the Edmonton Oilers tonight in doing just that. So that's something that he obviously has worked on with a new goaltending coach to be able to improve that part of his game. But it's the same story really with Artie, against big players. I mean, this isn't a big moment at all. I'm not saying the final preseason game is, but both teams had NHL rosters. Yep. You had your McDavids, you had your Draisaitl's, you mentioned Arvidsson and all the other players that the Oilers had. And Artie looked good. He looked composed. Nothing really seemed to bother him. And I think for a guy that went into last season and played all those meaningful games against the Oilers in the playoffs and didn't know what was going to happen kind of contractually with him this summer. And then he comes in, and then Thatcher Demko goes down and said, okay, well, you're the guy now. You've got to be the guy. This is your team. And then the Canucks go and get another goalie to kind of put that into his mind as well. He just seems like throughout everything that's gone on over the last, 5-6 months, he's handled it perfectly. And he's still so young, Jeff. He's still such a young kid. Yep. So to be able to have that poise and be so young and to go through that, I know it's a preseason game and I know that, but for Artie to have the crease, we think, will probably earned it for Wednesday night, the Canucks season opener. It's definitely a good thing.
Stopped 29 of 30 in this hockey game. Oilers were held off the score sheet on the power play, and we know what the power play can and will do in the regular season, but they had 25 seconds of 5-on-3 time in the second period that could have got them right back in this hockey game. And so Artur Silov's staring down everybody but Evan Bouchard. And we'll talk about the Oilers' goal because we're going to try and analyze this night and this preseason really from every angle conceivable. And look, a lot of people watching Aatu Räty in the preseason that he's had, and it's been terrific. And it's one of the reasons that he is still here and lined up as the third line center in this hockey game. We should mention, and a lot of people in the YouTube chat wondering about Connor Garland. Garland didn't play in this game, and so Nils Åman was a bit of a surprise starter. Kiefer Sherwood bumped up to the third line on right wing, and Nils Åman then was a fourth liner with Teddy Bluger and Arshdeep Bains, and we've talked about Bains' night here. Garland took the morning skate. Garland has practiced all week long, but it's your understanding that this wasn't an illness.
No, don't think it's anything serious with Garland. We're obviously, as we record this and do it live, we're waiting for Rick Tocchet to speak, so we'll definitely find out there. But don't think it's anything serious for Connor Garland, which is obviously some good news. So we'll obviously wait and hear from the head coach and then kind of go from there.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you're dealing with anything, it's Friday night. You don't play again until Wednesday. It's the prudent play.
You didn't want to play.
maybe look to JT and say,
yeah, your turn.
Exactly. And we'll get to JT and his night and some of the guys that are going to drive this engine for the Vancouver Canucks. But in the absence of Connor Garland, Kiefer Sherwood up on that right side. So Aatu Räty had himself a new line mate. I don't know if that factored into a lack of chemistry because that line of Räty, Garland, and Höglander all the way back to Penticton have been just buzzing. And Höglander was doing Nils Höglander's thing, gets into it with Troy Stetcher late in the hockey game, but the toe drag in the third period when he set up Räty, would love to have seen some finish there. Wasn't a great night for Aatu Räty. There have been some stellar nights in the preseason. This obviously wasn't one of his best. And when we look at the one Edmonton goal that was scored, 4-on-4, face off to the left of Silov's, that is Räty's strong side. He loses the draw cleanly to Victor Arvidsson and then got caught in no man's land. And you could see, he's pointing and doesn't get out to the point to take Evan Bouchard, of all people in the league, to let walk right down Main Street. Yeah, and it wasn't. I mean, it was a snapshot more than a slap shot, but still, there was just some processing there that, maybe you get away with at the American Hockey League level. In the NHL, you get exposed when you're going up against the best guys in the world.
Yeah, so as I said, doesn't sound like anything serious. Rick Tocchet saying that Garland tweaked something this morning. Doesn't sound serious. He could have played, didn't want to push it, given it's only the preseason. So an extra day off in a meaningless game for Connor Garland. Doesn't sound serious. We've heard that before.
That's true.
From the Vancouver Canucks. So we'll just have to wait and see. Let's see when they practice in the next couple of days and how that goes. But according to Rick Tocchet, it doesn't sound serious for Connor Garland. So there's your update there. And as you mentioned, Aatu Räty, I think the biggest thing for this organization and for the coaching staff, Jeff, when they looked at their players and the fringe guys, the bubble guys, it was consistency coming into the preseason. Arshdeep Bains had it. Right. And you mentioned how Räty had these games where, he showed stuff that was so good. And then could he do that the next game, or could he do that another game again? And he just wasn't able to do that. So Bains is definitely, turned some eyes and some heads of people here. But, there's obviously going to be guys that didn't play tonight that, are injured. That will be playing in the lineup. So it's going to be an interesting decision over the next week for Rick Tocchet to see who he wants to play on opening night.
Yep. And again, I just think it's the right call.
Yep.
If a guy is dealing with something, anything, why bother playing him, especially when the Canucks don't play again until Wednesday? They're supposed to practice at least once here over the weekend. I think there's a day off in there as well. So we'll see if Garland's on the ice. Pia Suter is the other one. We were told that he skated before the group at morning skate. So he wasn't out there with the team, but that's progress for a guy that wasn't at practice over the last couple of days. when the Canucks did skate. They had Thursday off. So we'll chart Pia Suter as well over the weekend. And the other guy is Akito Hiroshi, who's going to be sent down to Abbotsford, but was dealing with a concussion. It was just good to see him out on the ice. He was on the ice with the main group this morning, and so maybe that's an indication that he's got clearance, and if that's the case, then the Canucks will be able to send him down to the minors. So we'll see how things go. Never dull around this Vancouver Canucks hockey club as they move towards Monday, 2:00 Pacific time. They've got to set their opening night roster, and again, there can be manipulations and gymnastics, cap consideration come into play here. So don't freak out when they set their roster. That's not necessarily the team that they're going to ice on Wednesday night, but Monday at 2:00 Pacific time, the day before the season starts here in North America. There are a handful of games on Tuesday, and then the Canucks get after it against the Flames on Wednesday. So this is where management has to, be on top of things, take everything into consideration, and we'll see ultimately who makes the grade and who doesn't. But if it's about lasting impressions, Archie Bains took some real strides in this hockey game. And it wasn't just the goal and the assist. I thought his play away from the puck battles, he looked like a National Hockey Leaguer. He looked like he fit in against a really good Edmonton lineup. So that's a solid development for Archie Bains, and we'll see if it's enough for him to make the Vancouver Canucks and stick with the big league team after getting a couple of call-ups last year in the second half of the season. All right, let's get to the 3 stars of this hockey game, because we've talked about these guys in different ways and at different times. But the 3 stars, we're going with Bains, the goal and the assist. I think, again.
Yeah, no arguments for me on that one.
Yeah, I don't think anybody would have any arguments the way that he played. Artur Silovs, some big saves at big moments in this hockey game. Again, it was 2-0, and it stayed 2-0 to the middle stages. These are the Oilers. Like, they can score at the snap of a finger. And had their opportunities. And again, 30 shots on goal, and he stops 29 of them. So a really nice night for Artur Silovs. We've gone with the captain, Quinn Hughes, as the 3rd star. He scores the first goal that kind of got the ball rolling for the Vancouver Canucks. You touched on it. Like, he could have had a hat trick.
Yeah.
It's easy to say, could have, but he had glorious scoring opportunities in the second period off the draw, around the left side, cut to the net. I kind of thought maybe if he had held on to the puck just a split second longer, he might have been able to tuck it around Stuart Skinner, whatever the case. I'm not here to tell Quinn Hughes how to play hockey, but he was denied on that one. But then again, in the third period, cuts hard from the left side. And this is a guy that I think he's got 20 goals in his sights this year. Finished with 17 as part of his 92 points, the Norris Trophy. How can he get better? Where can he get better? I think if he's going to up his point totals, and I don't know if he's going to ultimately, but if he is, I think he probably has to be a 20-goal guy. I think he wants to be a 20-goal guy. I think he wants to show the National Hockey League that that's an area of his game that he can continue to round out. The slap shot that we saw today, he'll score some goals that way. But there were just moments in this game. And again, I know it's preseason. There were moments in the game where I was just in awe of Connor McDavid when he was in full flight. But there were moments in this game as well where you're just reminded like how damn ridiculously good at hockey Quinn Hughes is. And on the power play, that stretch pass down the left side, I think the television broadcast had it at 89 feet, tape to tape, to generate the scoring chance for Brock Besser. But there was a play in the second period where the puck was flipped to center ice. Hughes and Hronek both went back for it. They kind of was, I'll take it, you've got it. I think Hronek made the right call and deferred to Quinn and let him have the puck. But he was under some pressure, and he faked to his left, and all of the Oiler pressure bought the fake, and he just casually spun away from pressure, and it opened up half the ice. And it he made it look so easy. If it was that easy, every guy in the league would do it.
Yeah.
But all in one motion, just a fake, and then peeled off. And I was just sitting there in the press box, from the 500 level, thinking he just makes it look so easy. So even in the preseason here, he scores a goal, could have had a few others. Third star for Quinn Hughes, and he's going to be a star on so many nights as we work our way through the regular season that starts on Wednesday night. But even at the end, and the game out in Abbotsford as well, we didn't do a rink wide that night, but there were moments there where his first look at preseason action, and it just, toying with a relatively young group of Calgary Flames, but just another reminder that like when he wants to, he can absolutely take over hockey games.
I think one of the biggest things now for Quinn Hughes is, forwards and defensemen obviously have to be careful. They know what he can do, but if you're focusing on, say, his hands and just trying to get the puck off his hands, he's going to beat you with his legs. So then if you try and take his legs, well, you know what? He's a Norris Trophy winning defenseman. He's going to beat you with his hands because he is that good. So he's got so many weapons. Sky's the limit for Quinn Hughes. His next contract is going to be absolutely bananas. I'm telling you that right now. But for what he is signed for and what he is worth, the Canucks are getting every single dollar out of that because it's unbelievable.
Say it all the time. Like everybody looks at best contracts in the league, and they look at the guys that are making $1 million bucks, and I'm saying like, look what the Canucks are getting.
Yeah.
He should be making double. Now it's the way it works. He signed a long-term contract. The market shifts. I get that, but you're right. Let's not worry about what he's going to get on the next deal. Enjoy the next 3 seasons because the Canucks have an unbelievable bargain on their hands in their captain, Quinn Hughes. 4-1, the Canucks defeat the Edmonton Oilers. Canucks go 3-2-1 in the preseason. They start playing for keeps on Wednesday against the Calgary Flames. Rink Wide brought to you in part by the Vancouver Canadians. And the Seas want to thank fans for another great season out at the Nat all summer long. If you're looking to guarantee your seat for the action in 2025, visit their website, canadiansbaseball.com, or pick up the phone, give them a call. Maybe not right now, late on a Friday night, but you can give them a call and reserve those tickets for next year, 604-872-5232. All right, so we've done the 3 stars here. Quinn Hughes, obviously one of the stalwarts for the Vancouver Canucks, that core group. Our first look of the preseason at JT Miller, who doesn't factor in the scoring. I don't think that's any reason for concern. He had that chance in the third period when Brock Besser set up neatly in the slot. Quick shot and just missed the mark there. But I do think it was important that JT got into a game at the very least. I mean, he copped earlier in the week to the fact that, this wasn't all fun and games and he was just sitting out for something to do. He was dealing with something, kind of like Connor Garland, that, again, putting himself in harm's way in the preseason didn't make any sense. But had the green light and the clean bill of health, and I do think it was important for him just to get in there, sort of to get the speed of the game again.
Yeah, I think it was important to, speed of the game. Hitting someone else, not your own teammate. He had 2 hits in the game, 11 and 10 in the faceoff circle, so 52%. I mean, obviously you mentioned he didn't factor into the score sheet there, but he did things that you would expect JT Miller to do. He got in on the forecheck like he usually does, skated hard, finished a couple checks, broke up some passes, made some good plays in the defensive zone. I think it was one of those things for him, just get out there and feel it. There's another 4 days again where he's going to have to skate with his teammates once again. And then for real, when, it gets going for real on Wednesday. But yeah, I don't think we can sit here and make too much of what JT Miller's 1650 of ice time was in a meaningless preseason game. The good news is he was out there, and the greater news is he wasn't hurt after or during the game.
Well, then let's move from Miller to another guy that's always in the spotlight. He's making a ton of cheese at 11.6 now. The new contract is kicked in. There were moments in this hockey game that I wanted to see from Elias Pettersson. The backhand pass, the patience, first of all, waiting for that passing lane to open up and then to put the puck onto the stick of Carson Soucy to make it 2-0. I didn't need Elias Pettersson to dominate a preseason game. I didn't need him to take over this game against the Oilers, but I did want to see some moments. And I thought in the earlier games that he dressed for, the one in Abbotsford against the Flames, the one in Seattle, there really wasn't much. Now, the Abbotsford game, he does set up DeBrusk for the overtime winner, so I don't want to say that he didn't figure in the scoring or factor in that hockey game, but I left that night wanting a little bit more. I don't know that we got it from him in Seattle, but there were some flashes here, I thought, and that was a hell of a pass for Carson Soucy.
Well, I think that's the biggest thing for Elias Pettersson right now is also just feeling out the game. He had 2 assists plus 2 shots on net, a hit, and wasn't very good in the faceoff circle, but that's neither here nor there.
No, he
got killed.
No, he
got absolutely killed in the faceoff circle. But look, I think that everyone wants Elias Pettersson to be so damn good right away this season. Like, there is an enormous amount of pressure on this young man coming into this season because of what didn't happen in the postseason last year. And it sucks. And for him, obviously, he knows it sucks. He reads, he knows, he listens to what people are saying about him. So coming into this season, I think people need to temper expectations just a little bit, right? If he gets off to a slow start or a slower start, this guy might not be a 20, 25 goal guy by the time Christmas rolls around, like people might want him to be. On the other side of it, you have that big ticket now, Jeff, and you got there there is a lot of expectations. I just think they need to be tempered just a little bit, because if he does come out and not score 20, 25 goals around Christmas time, or be the guy that he was right around American Thanksgiving last year, people are going to get worried. Elias Pettersson is paid a lot of money to obviously put pucks in the net and do all of that, but whatever he does, it's going to matter in the postseason. So whatever he's doing this regular season, it's going to all have to come, circling into playing his best hockey in March and April and forward. And I think that that's the thing that he's looking forward to the most as well.
Well, he ends up with 2 assists, including one on the empty netter by Jake DeBrusk. So 4 points in the 3 games that he played.
He gets his points.
Right. So it's, can he dictate the way games are played? How do those points come? I mean, look, the leading scorers in the NHL, they're going to get theirs with some empty netters along the way. I'm not detracting from the late point that he got, but I like that assist, and I'm not alone. Just reading a quote from Rick Tocchet after the game, that's a great play by Petey. I think holding onto the puck, shoulder check, and moving his feet, that opened it up. He didn't panic. That's a top-notch play to hit Seuss on the backhand in the slot. Tough play, great play by Petey. So the coach sort of saw it the same way. Just want to see more of that starting on Wednesday night.
What do you want to see from Elias Pettersson, or what were you looking to see in this training camp and preseason, whether it was what he said to the media or whether it was in his game?
For me, it was just moments. I wanted to see things like the pass to Susie. That, I mean, it's there. He hasn't forgotten how to play the game.
Yeah.
But I wanted to see him make plays that would lead to scoring chances or goals. And in this case, Susie hit the mark. So I think, other than going 1 for 8 in the faceoff circle, I think I saw sort of what I was looking for. I think this was Pettersson's best performance in the preseason, and maybe he was easing his way in. This obviously was the best lineup. I wanted to see what he and the group looked like on the power play. We talked a little bit about that earlier. There were a few moments. I thought the first power play, PP1 didn't look great. Second time, they were able to work it around once into the bumper for Jake DeBrusk, and I was watching closely. The Oilers got the 2 early power plays, and I thought, give the Canucks power plays. I wanted to see the Canucks power play. I want to see Jake DeBrusk. I want to see how he settles in and fits in with that unit. This isn't a guy that spent a ton of time in the bumper in Boston, so I think there's going to be a learning curve for him. And the Canucks were able to work the puck on the second power play of the night to DeBrusk in the middle. Want to see more of that. Want to see him generate some looks there. So, look, Jake DeBrusk was brought in to score goals.
Yep.
He ends the preseason with 3 of them. If he had none, we'd be talking about that. So let's talk about the fact that the guy that was brought here to score goals scored 3, including an overtime winner out in Abbotsford. I think all things considered, did he light the league on fire? No, but I'll take 3 goals from Jake DeBrusk to sort of just get that good feeling, get the mojo going heading into the regular season. The line as a whole, Pettersson, DeBrusk, and Sprong, I think it's still a work in progress. I didn't feel like there was a ton of chemistry with those 3, but they'll get a few practice days here, and I do think that that's a line that's going to open the season for the Vancouver Canucks.
Yeah, I think that when we did our last Rink Wide post-game show, I think our Bet365 bet was over under on Jake DeBrusk's season points, and it was like 48 and a half or something like that. So definitely, I think you'd still take the over, right? He had 40 points last year, 19 goals and 21 assists in 80 games. I think now, you have him playing on a line with Elias Pettersson. They're going to play a lot. He's on the top power play unit. He's going to get a lot of looks there. It's very easy to see that him to be able to go and do that and put the puck in the net. Sprong's the interesting one for me, because if it doesn't work for Sprong early, I wonder what Rick Tocchet does, because is he a guy that you can rely on in the bottom 6 forward group? Because everyone that's been around Daniel Sprong and watched him play has said the reason why Daniel Sprong has been around so many different teams, so many different places, is because it's a play in his own end. So if he can somehow figure that out, if the Canucks coaching staff can get him to play two-way hockey, get him to play in his own end, a 200-foot game, then I think he's serviceable if that experiment doesn't work out. But if it does work out, you could have another 20-goal scorer at your hands, and Elias Pettersson could have weapons on both his flanks.
4-1, the Canucks beat the Edmonton Oilers to wrap up the preseason with 3 wins, 2 losses, and the shootout loss the other night against the same Edmonton Oilers. Hey, we want to hear from you. You're hearing from us and our thoughts on all of this, but fire off some comments into the Great Clips inbox. With more than 4,400 hair salons throughout the United States and Canada, Great Clips is the world's largest hair salon brand, an official hair salon of the NHL. Salons are locally owned and operated. They're open 7 days a week. For more information, check them out online, greatclips.com. At Great Clips, it's going to be great. And again, the inbox is open. We ask you, too, to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you don't already. You don't want to miss any programming as we work our way through this marathon that is the National Hockey League regular season. So hit that subscribe button on YouTube. And, of course, make sure you follow us and interact with us on all of our social channels. All right, you mentioned Bet365. Shall we get into tonight's line of the night?
Absolutely. And it's pretty funny because people in our YouTube chat right now are going off about who's going to win the division. I see people fighting each other about the Canucks and the Oilers. It's the Oilers division. Oh, wait, maybe there's
fighting
someone
each other in the chat, you say? Really?
Yes, about the division. So let's take a look at the division right now, because I think that that's one of the bets that's interesting to me. Obviously, a segment brought to you by Bet365, proud partners to Carson Price, Canucks Conversation, and Jeff, you and I here at Rink Wide Vancouver. Open an account with Bet365 today. Bet on a huge range of markets. So whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Use code VANBONUS when opening an account. Yes, very interesting here. Pacific Division odds. Edmonton Oilers, obviously the favorite at plus 100, but the Canucks at plus 300 to win the division. That's some very good value. The expectation is the Oilers are going to win the division, right? Yep. I think, obviously the Canucks, doing what they did last season, the Oilers are, they were a Stanley Cup runner-up. All the expectation for them is to go back and be the Florida team that lost in the final and then went back and eventually won. So expectations are high there, but this Vancouver Canucks team, again, can be sneaky. So plus 300, some very, very good value there on winning the Pacific Division.
All right. Well, we'll keep that in mind.
Unless it's Oilers fans in here that are saying, like, it's crazy.
I've seen some angst in Edmonton.
Yeah.
Based on what they've seen in the preseason. People, it's the preseason. I think Connor and Leon, they get a pass.
Like, Connor's probably going to win the Hart. Like, they're just that good. Leon's probably going to be up there for the Rocket Richard or the Ted Lindsay or something like that. They're all going to get good awards.
They learned their lesson from last year with the brutal start. And look, it cost Jay Woodcroft his job, and then they got things sorted out. They recognize like how steep that hill was just to get back into the playoff mix. They don't want to go down that road again. So if they paced themselves in the preseason, if they weren't applying themselves, like McDavid and Draisaitl weren't terrific in this hockey game, big deal. If you're an Edmonton Oilers fan, they'll be ready to go. They open against Winnipeg. The Canucks open against the Calgary Flames. Canucks don't see the Oilers again until November the 9th. So remember last year, the opening night, and then in Edmonton, and 3 times in the first, a dozen games or whatever. They're going to have to wait a month before they see the Oilers. And they only see them 3 times this year. Last year, they beat them up, swept them all 4 times in the regular season. They can't beat them 4 times in the regular season because they only play them 3 times this season.
Would you want the Canucks, I guess it's a hypothetical question, but do you want the Canucks a better scenario for them to go all out and try and win this division, or be playing your best hockey at the time that you need to, right? You bank wins and you do all that, or do you want this team playing its best hockey in March and April and get into the playoffs then?
Yeah, I would take the second option because, look, we saw last year, like they won the division, but they weren't very good at home in the playoffs.
And their final 2 months of the regular season, they weren't very good either. Like March and April, they weren't very good.
Right. And then,
March, they were okay.
Like,
but
they won all 3 games in Nashville, but they won 1 of 3 games at home against the Predators. And then I think they win 2 of 4 against the Edmonton. They were below 500 at home. So, did home ice matter? They had a 7th game at home against the Oilers. Ultimately, that didn't matter. Now, ask Florida if, game 7 of a Stanley Cup at home, they put that to good use. But no, for me, it's way more about hitting your stride, having your best players at the peak of their game, having your power play going. And of course, it would be great if you had your star goaltender completely healthy and ready to go. And that's another story that really has kind of been swept under the rug a little bit. Like Thatcher Demko was on the ice every morning in Penticton, and it looked like some progress. And now
he might be on the ice every morning here. You just don't see it.
You're right.
You just don't see it now.
I recognize that, but I guess I thought, it's been 2 weeks since Penticton, that if he was progressing, that maybe he'd be out facing some shots from NHL shooters. Like in Penticton, he was only facing shots from goalie coaches. Those aren't NHLers.
Yep.
And so he reached a level, but it kind of felt like maybe he plateaued there. I don't know. All speculation. And you're right. I'm sure he is working out at the very least behind the scenes. I don't know if he's on the ice, but it just kind of feels like out of sight, out of mind. But, the talk a month ago was, would he be ready for opening night? Obviously, he's not going to be ready for opening night. I just don't think anybody, and that may include Thatcher Demko, has any idea right now about when we are going to see him in the Vancouver Canucks lineup.
Yeah, it's interesting because, he's obviously getting his workouts in, whether it's on and off the ice. Obviously, we don't see it as at the media. They probably have him skating well before his teammates go on the ice. But, just from talking to people around, Jeff, I think that it might be around Halloween where we see things maybe start to ramp up a little bit, give him some time. And maybe, it's been widely reported what the injury is. And, you have to figure out how to play through that pain or whatever's bothering you. But maybe it is around that time where things might start to ramp up a little bit. And if that is the case, okay, well, then it is the Lankinen and Silov show for the first month of the regular season. So we're going to have to wait and see, obviously. And again, it's up to Thatcher Demko, right? At the end of it, we can sit here and say what we know. Doctors can say what they know, but Thatcher Demko straps up the pads and takes 3 shots in practice from Elias Pettersson, Brock Besser, and JT Miller. Doesn't feel good. Well, then there's something that the Canucks are going to have to look at as well. So again, the last thing that I heard was it could have been around maybe Halloween where things start to ramp up a little bit more, but we just have to wait and see.
So in the meantime, it's Artur Silovs, it's Kevin Lankinen. We'll see if organizationally they look for a little bit of help after losing Yuri Patera on waivers the other day. Look, Patera could find himself back on waivers if Jeremy Swayman and the Bruins could kiss and make up. So I just find it hard to believe that the Canucks, who have placed such importance on player development and the farm system and have Manny Malhotra in his first year down there, would go into battle with Nikita Tolopilo and who knows who the backup at this point would be, but not a ton of goaltending depth in the organization at the moment. Goaltending from the top down has been in a state of flux because of the Thatcher Demko situation. So I do wonder if they look to find a veteran guy somehow, some way. Let's see as other teams set their rosters. Of course, the Canucks really aren't in a position to make a waiver.
No, they're not
because of
contracts.
Yeah, exactly. So they may have to get a little creative and find somebody that is available. Whatever the case, I have a feeling that we're not seeing the final roster down in Abbotsford with what they've got right here, right now. Look, this is the Canucks post-game pod. We try and break this thing down as many ways as we can. One guy that we don't talk about an awful lot at the best of times, but Teddy Bluger, we hadn't seen him in the preseason. Didn't get to skate in camp with the main group, coming off an undisclosed medical procedure late in the summer. But he had said all week that he was feeling good and he had hoped to play in this game. Again, I thought that fourth line was good. I thought Teddy Bluger looked like he found the speed of the game relatively quickly. So kind of the same. I mean, JT Miller obviously has more importance to this group in the big picture, but Teddy Bluger can play a key role, penalty killer. He's going to be one of the first guys out over the boards on the PK. The PK was perfect in this hockey game. And so I do think if, a guy that had come off some sort of surgery, if he hadn't had a game before Wednesday night, he may have been chasing a little bit. It's just one game, but I thought Teddy Bluger and his line mates were pretty good as the night went along.
Yeah. 14:07 of ice time, +1, had a shot, 7 and 8 in the faceoff circle, 47%. That's like if you give Teddy Bluger that stat line every night, I think he'll take it.
Yep.
Right. I think that if you're on the wrong side of the plus minus, it means you're not doing something well. And obviously he was on the ice for a goal. And then, shutting down the team's power play. I think that's a position where, he finds himself in. He's going to need to be in probably a lot more with Dakota Joshua's absence. Not in the lineup as well. So he's going to get a lot more power play time. But yeah, it's good for him. Much like JT Miller, obviously JT didn't have a procedure, but was banged up a little bit during the preseason. Teddy Bluger was as well. And found himself, and I think he just had a solid outing. I mean, that's all it was. You're not going to get much more from Teddy Bluger than that. And I think that's the thing about Teddy Bluger.
Right. I mean, he's a pro. He's a veteran at this point. But think about his week. Here he is, pushing to get back into this game. Out at UBC on Thursday in their last practice, there was a rotating group of wingers. He had Baines, he had Amon, he had Kiefer Sherwood, and so he didn't have set line mates there. Then he goes to the morning skate, He's got Sherwood on one side, he's got Baines on the other, and then the Garland news hits, and all of a sudden he's playing with, like, Niels Amon is on it. So, in terms of trying to get back and just find some consistency and a rhythm, it's been a bit of a screwy week that way for a guy like Teddy Bluger, but seemed unfazed by it. And again, he's a pro's pro, so just showed up and did his thing. And it was good to see him back in the lineup, and good to know that he was able to get through this one and should be good to go on Wednesday when the Canucks take on the Calgary Flames. Hey, we want to remind you, if you're not already, check out the great content that is being cranked out on a daily basis right now. It's been wild how much content there is at Canucks Army. If you haven't checked out the website, highly recommend it. So do yourself a favor. Also, Canucks Convo in the afternoon with David Quadrelli and Harmon Dial every afternoon at 2 o'clock. And, of course, Harrison Price as well, live streaming at 11:30 Monday to Friday. So here at the Nation Network, all sorts of programming for you as you work your way through the days. And Irf and I are going to be here post-game. I know you won't be in on every show, but the bulk of them, I've seen the schedule. You're going to be here most nights. So looking forward to getting things underway when the Canucks start playing on Wednesday. Just a few more minutes here as we carry on. And again, the feedback to the great clips in. Canucks had 5 players with 20 or more goals last season. How many players are going to hit that mark for the club this year?
Ooh, how many players? Let's look.
You'd say
Brock 1, JT 2, Elias Pettersson 3, DeBrusk better 4.
There's got to be another 20 goal scorer in there, I think.
Daniel Sprong, maybe.
Sure. I mean, Garland,
Quinn Hughes.
Like
he wants to be a 20 goal scorer. There
I
it
like
is.
It. Yeah.
There it is. It's Quinn Hughes. Yeah.
So we say 5 again, or is there more than that?
I think 5's the number.
Yeah.
Probably 5 is probably the number. One of the guys is probably going to have 35, 40, but yeah, I think 5 20 goal scorers is probably a good thing to look at if you're a Vancouver Canucks fan. And just the way that, if one of them's a defenseman, that's pretty darn good too.
Well, Carson Soucy. Soucy scored 2 goals last year.
Yeah.
Only played 40 regular season games. He scored twice. He had 2 in the preseason. He matched his total from his first year as a Vancouver Canuck. But this is a guy that scored 10 a couple of years ago in Seattle. I think his first year in Seattle, he had 10 goals. So he knows where the net is. And I think that defense is set. Hughes and Hronik, they're going to play a lot. You got Soucy and Myers. There are still some questions about Derek Forbort and Vincent Desharnais, and there was good and bad in both their games, I thought, tonight. Forbort, the puck is he struggles with the puck. A couple of his breakout passes. Desharnais got beaten wide one point. Can't remember who the Oiler was. They got around him and cut hard to the net. But, I think that's going to be worth monitoring as the Canucks work their way into the season. Can those guys hold up their end of the bargain? Forbort's going to provide some penalty-killing utility. And Desharnais, great teammate, has already immersed himself with the group. But ultimately, you're judged by what you do on the ice. And we'll see. This is a guy that the Oilers went away from when the chips were really down in the Stanley Cup final. Winds up here in Vancouver, gets himself a little bit of security, and we'll see where things go for Vinny Desharnais. So that's going to be something that I think I'll be watching closely, and I'm sure others will as well as the season unfolds starting on Wednesday. All right, we got our stat that stands out. We do that on each and every episode of Rink Wide Vancouver. So let's grab the stat that stands out, and you can see it on the screen there. We talked a lot earlier about Artur Shilov's just 2 goals allowed in the 2 preseason games that he played at Rogers Arena. So that's the kind of goaltending that the Vancouver Canucks want to see from Artie. The home games, I'd like to see it on the road games as well. Struggled picking up those long shots in Calgary last weekend. That was the one game he gave up 4. He gave up a total of 6 goals in the preseason. So he played 2 2/3 games and allowed 6 goals. Decent goals against average, but it's more about tracking pucks for him and just continuing to develop that skill and working with Marco Terenius, the new goaltending coach, and working with Kevin Lankinen, his new goaltending partner for the time being. But again, if this was any indication, Artie looks ready to go, and they're going to need him starting on Wednesday night. But 2 goals in 2 home games in the preseason, that works. That's a stat that stands out.
Yeah, I think the Canucks will take that too. I think it's about him. It's just getting ready, getting your mind ready, getting your body ready. You're going to play a lot more. In the playoffs, you knew exactly what was coming your way. You were going to be the guy. You were being dependent on every night or every other night. Here, it's a little bit different right now in this season because you have the backup goalie, and you might get one game and they might use the tandem. So you kind of gotta. Maybe it is a win and you're in situation. I don't know if it's going to be that, but I expect that they do use both goaltenders a little bit at least for the first month of the season, unless, Arthur Sheilov sets the world on fire again and he, shows up and he plays really, really, really good hockey and the Canucks can't go away from him.
I mentioned Forbort. Again, I think, if he kills penalties and just sort of plays within himself, he'll be fine. And he's got to bring a physical element, and he did tonight. What was Darnell Nurse thinking on the hit on Kiefer Sherwood? Like, Sherwood's down completely exposed, can't defend himself, and it's preseason hockey, and Darnell Nurse is rolling over him like that. So good on Forbort for stepping in.
Yeah.
And then, the scrum sort of continued. Vinny got into it as well. Those are big dudes on the back end, and they're going to have to play that physical role for the Vancouver Canucks. But whether it's preseason or regular season, I was glad to see Forbort at least step in there and step up for a teammate. But again, Darnell Nurse, like, there's just no need. Like, where's the respect in the game?
Yeah,
it could have turned out badly for Sherwood.
Well, definitely. And I think Sherwood, obviously you saw in the reaction from Sherwood, he was pissed. He obviously was like, it's the preseason game. It's the last one. No one's trying to get hurt here. What are you doing? And, Darnell Nurse, plays the game with an edge. And I think that's, everyone knows that about Darnell Nurse, but it's also time and place for it. Like, know where you are. Know it's the preseason. You have a few days off after this as well. So again, like you mentioned, Jeff, respect the game. But I like the fact that both guys jumped in, to help out their teammates. That's what you want to see. But just going back to your point about defensemen and defensively for the Vancouver Canucks, this coaching staff completely changed Tyler Myers, like a little bit from what he was to who he became last season. I think there's something there, a reason why they went after these players. They saw something enough in Vinny Desharnais in size, obviously. They like their size, and in Derek Forbort, there was something there that they really believe, Patrick Allvin must really believe that, his coaching staff can work with these two guys. Everyone's going to watch it because the puck can, on Derek or Forbort's stick, a little bit bouncy there at times, and Vinny Desharnais can make some mistakes as well. But if they can turn those two guys into the transformation that Tyler Myers had, maybe you've got yourself something there.
There is something to that. Tyler Myers seemed to find the fountain of youth and just eliminate those big mistakes that were such a part of his game.
Contract year, but
that is true. And it landed him a 3-year extension with the Vancouver Canucks. But as he approaches his 31st birthday, we will see Father Time catches up to everybody. And right now, Tyler Myers playing a top 4 role on defense for the Vancouver Canucks. Quinn Hughes, Carson Soucy, Arshdeep Bains, and Jake DeBrusk, the goal scorers for the Vancouver Canucks. Evan Bouchard, the only Oiler to beat Arthur Sheilov, coming on a 4-on-4 midway through that second period to make it a 3-1 hockey game, but 4-1 is the final. Canucks go 3-2-1 in the preseason. It is full steam ahead now to the regular season that starts on Wednesday. You'll be back with me then when the Canucks open at home against the Calgary Flames. The Philadelphia Flyers come in for game number 2, and then the bags are packed, and the Canucks are heading out on an eastern road trip, so we'll see if they can get out of the gates quickly, protect home ice. Of course, the second home game, Alex Edler night, should be some fun around Rogers Arena. And I don't know about you, but there's just something about opening night, any sport. We've both been doing this for a while.
Sometimes opening morning?
Sometimes you get a little jaded.
Did you see opening morning today?
Opening morning in Seattle, overseas. And Seattle playing, I think, 1:30 puck drop on Tuesday. So it really is opening day for the Kraken at home against the St. Louis Blues. That's Tuesday, but the Canucks and the Flames on Wednesday. So, all right, we got a little rushed off with the 2 games here in the preseason, but we're ready to go. Great feedback in our feedback channels as well. So it looks like you, the viewers and the listeners, are ready to go as well. Keep all of that coming. Follow us on our socials. You can find them there on the screen if you're watching on YouTube. And again, we encourage you to subscribe, to like, to rate, and review. We love your feedback. Keep it coming all season long. That's going to do it for this episode of Rink Wide Vancouver. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy your weekend, everybody. For Jacob and Karin working behind the scenes, and for Irf, that's going to do it for the preseason. Again, looking forward to getting things going for real starting on Wednesday when the Canucks host the Calgary Flames. We'll be on shortly after the final buzzer there for the first of 82 regular season episodes of Rink Wide Vancouver.
Thanks for watching this video. For more great content from Canucks Army, check out Sakaris and Price, Rink Wide Vancouver, or our show, Canucks Conversation. We're your one-stop shop for interviews, breaking news, and a live Canucks postgame show hosted by Jeff Patterson.